All right, welcome everybody. So this is our bi-monthly Meta-Delegate call with Uniswap. Today we're going to continue our UGP grantee showcase. On board we have Flipside Crypto and Co. I'm going to give you guys the floor. Everybody, please introduce yourselves. Let us know what Flipside Crypto is, and we're going to dive into the nitty-gritty of the proposal.
Great. Okay, well, I'll give a quick kickoff and then let others. I'm Dave. I'm the CEO of Flipside Crypto. We'll get into what we do in a second, but maybe Avi and hit us next.
Sure. My name is Avi Myers, Director of Partnerships at Flipside, and also run our innovation lab. And very excited to be here. Angela.
I'm Angela Minster, and I'm a data scientist at Flipside.
And I'm GJ, and I work in the community at Flipside.
Awesome. Okay, Jeremy, we'll dive into what we do in the proposal. Does that work?
Yeah, please introduce what Flipside is, and then let's get into the proposal.
Great. Okay. Flipside provides business intelligence for blockchain organizations. The way that we do that is we extract data from blockchains. We transform it, we curate it, we label it, and we make it ready for analysts to utilize to create any type of analytical insight, API, any other type of outcome they would like. We're sort of best in class at that. We actually over the last 4 years have produced analytics for more than 45 different blockchains. Some of our partners today are Terra. We work with Compound, Uni, Aave, Near, Flow, Cello, Thorchain. So we work with many blockchains producing these types of analytics. The way our model works, we open a SQL layer interface to allow any analyst, any data scientist, anyone who would like to utilize the data to build any type of analytical outcome. The special part of our service, though, is we bounty the ability to create outputs. So we source needs from the community, from the protocol itself. We identify what types of things people would like to have created, and then we create bounties every week to activate analysts to go produce those outcomes. So that's what we do as a business. The proposal that we've presented has two components to it. It has that part, we call that community-enabled analytics. So we would like to deliver community-enabled analytics for Uniswap. We have already been given a pilot grant where we created a few bounty programs, but also some outputs like a Uniswap V3 fee calculator. So we would like to continue that program. The key part of the proposal, though, is the way we would like to do that is we would utilize the grant capital to put into Uniswap liquidity pools. And we have proposed how we might do that in order to create yield. And that yield would be what powers the program. So the bounties, the fees for our services, et cetera, would come out of that yield as opposed to the grant capital itself. We call that no negative net uni. Over time, we basically ensure that no uni is leaving the ecosystem. As a matter of fact, it should grow if we do it effectively. And we're self-powering this in perpetuity premium analytics program for the Uniswap ecosystem. That's what we're proposing.
Fantastic. And so I guess to kind of dive into it, like you mentioned, it's like a multi-tiered proposal. So I guess let's dive into this 3-year term end of cycle performance review. How is that laid out, and how would that be executed in terms of the allocation of committee, in terms of funding as well as votes? How will that affect governance in general, both on the Uniswap side of things, and how would that affect Flipside? Kind of dive into that a bit.
Sure. I'll answer a part of this. Avi might have some color to add to how this is shaped. But when we first presented the proposal, there was feedback related to how is it going to be? How are you sure that it's going to be? Is there oversight around what's happening within this process? We actually got a little of that within the channels, within the sort of governance process. But we also spoke to a lot of people out in the community, venture capitalists, people who are uni holders, et cetera. And so we talked about that with them. The main concern was not whether our program could deliver value. It was actually around if the value wasn't, big enough over time or effective enough over time, what do you do with that $25 million, okay, which is the initial grant? And so we wanted a way where that could, we don't want to run a program whereby the community isn't finding it favorable. And so we wanted to develop a system by which that 25 million could go almost back, actually not even almost, could go back into the governance structure to reevaluate its spend. Okay, so we set up two committees. Committee one is an allocation committee. It's a 7-person committee. It looks at the assets and it really evaluates the way that we're creating yield off of that 25 million to make sure it's allocated correctly. Can we get enough and appropriate yield? The second committee is the important one. It's an oversight committee. It's a 3-member committee, and their sole role is to be able to say, we think this grant should go back into a review process. Now they can do that at any time. It doesn't need to wait for 3 years. It could happen anytime. But at the 3-year mark, there's a moment whereby they're sort of obligated in order to put it under a look and a review. So that's our way of ensuring that it's being used for the ecosystem effectively.
Yeah. And I guess just to add on to that kind of maybe philosophically or kind of just aligning with DAOs, one of the things we're trying to solve for that you see a lot now is they take the grants programs in Uniswap, Compound, Aave, they're carving out portions of the treasury to give more flexibility to how the allocations and the types of services and goods and value that can be produced from those treasuries. But I think one of the challenges that DAOs in general are facing is when you do carve out some of those funds, how does the DAO kind of remain and involved and have oversight over the performance of that, right? Like any business may spin up a separate business unit that has kind of reporting capabilities and oversight in that sense. So we're trying to help kind of facilitate the evolution of that process by creating committees that have some accountability to the DAO and providing value, but also gaining some level of independence to be able to work agilely and kind of maximize the value that they're providing to the ecosystem. So it's cool to watch that balance take place, and I love that kind of we can be part of helping shape that a bit as well.
And basically this effort is self-sustaining, right? So it will generate or accrue fees of some sort. I don't want to get into it. I want to let you guys explain it more in depth. But basically that's what you're aiming for, is that it'll basically fund itself post the grant disbursement, right? So I guess you can kind of explain that aspect of things a bit.
Yep. So the way that it works is the grant itself, the 25 million, will go into liquidity pools. And we have a recommendation of the pool that we would utilize. If I'll actually share my screen. Can I share my screen? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you something that was developed in the pilot program that we did that maybe Angela could explain a tiny bit. Let me see if I can open the right window. Hold on. Angela, I'm going to pull up the fee calculator if you want to just walk through what's happening in there. There we go. Okay. So we're going to take that 25 million and we're going to put it into liquidity pools. So Angela, do you want to walk through a bit of what we're seeing here in the fee calculator?
Yeah, so you're going to put it in the uni pool, right?
That's correct.
So you want to pick the uni pool from the drop down. You can backspace and just type uni.
Okay.
Yeah, uni. I don't remember which one you had picked, but pretend we're going to say
right.
UniWeth.
Yeah.
I doubt it would be UniWeth 1% fee, but yeah, this is not a very active pool, but
yeah.
Okay. This is also be a good way to see how to use this calculator. This calculator is available at uniswapv3.flipsidecrypto.com. But yep.
Yeah. So it's not all of it's going in this one pool, right?
I think this is a part of the pool. I think 80% might be going in this pool.
Okay, so you can put that in the green box that says investment dollar here.
Okay, so let's just do it this way. Okay, so 20 million.
Yeah. And so at the current setting, so as you know, in Uniswap v3, you have a chance for increased capital efficiency by investing not in the range of 0 to infinity of prices for each of the tokens, but instead we're putting this liquidity in a more narrow range. And so over on the left, you have the assumptions that the calculator is using as saying the active price, which is unis per WETH, is 102 unis per WETH. And the liquidity bounds is that this liquidity would only support trades between 94 and 119 unis per WETH. So it's a whole strategy of how to figure out what range to get into, and it's something that needs oversight and has to be updated as the prices change. But let's say that we are starting here. If we have these ranges of 94 to 117, over on the top right chart, you can see that this very large amount of money would represent 30% of the liquidity in this pool at this time, which means that this position would be earning 30% of all of the fees from swaps. And that would amount to $7,956 per day, which is annualized at 14.5%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, if I could quickly interject, so basically this could be utilized as a, how do I say, a strategic dashboard, right? To kind of approach liquidity providing in to determine which is the most optimal range to add liquidity to, right? This is actually really, really cool. So please continue. I'm sorry.
So, yeah, no problem. That is correct. So this was an output of the pilot program, which shows our capability. But as it relates to the program we'd be running, we would take the grant, put it into the liquidity pool, and then I'll just walk you through how this sort of works here, okay? So we would accept the grant, we would generate yield using that liquidity pool. So in this case, it's more than 10%, but I'm using 10%. Out of that yield, okay, so let's say that yield is $500,000 a month. Let's use that as a number. 250,000 of that would go right out to the community in the form of bounties. Every week we would say, what do you want? What do you want built for Uni? You want Uniswap v3 calculators? Do you want new types of analytics? Do you want an understanding of how whales are behaving? All those things are possible. We're going to take our community of analysts and we're going to give them that money in order to, or that uni in order to build those applications. The output of that is twofold. One is we get a whole in-depth set of analytics, always moving, always refreshing. But we're also using that to engage an audience to activate and build the community. So as an example, we track how many people began their journey with Uni by receiving one of these bounties, right? That's a user acquisition metric. How many of those bounties remain in the ecosystem and what happens to them? That allows us to understand that what we call native token recycling, the ability for that asset to be reaccumulated. So the big picture is we're going to take that grant, we're going to create that yield, and that yield is what funnels into the program.
Now, is there a way, this is actually very interesting, is there a way to monitor if some of that funding or some of those bounty rewards, if you will, was delegated into voting or into governance? I think that would be fairly interesting to see like a conversion metric to see, okay, the community from these bounties was rewarded X%. I don't want to give an arbitrary number. And then a percentage of that was then delegated to, let's say, Ben Meta-Delegate, or was delegated to whatever delegate is in Uniswap. I think that would be a fairly interesting metric to provide, because now it shows that you're almost single-handedly, in a way, catalyzing participation in governance, right? So that's a fairly interesting perspective.
I like
yeah,
that.
we will definitely be keeping track of that.
Yeah, no doubt. Even self-delegating, right? Like getting more people involved in active governance, participating in the forums, kind of empowering them. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely a big part, and I'll let Angela speak to it a bit as well. But any action that's relevant for an ecosystem, right? So whether you get the uni and you're providing liquidity, you are just attracting users and liquidity to the platform, and then depending on the use case of the token, if it's governance, then obviously, yeah, participation in governments as well. But a big part of the data science team is to track, you know, where those assets are flowing, what users are doing, and understanding kind of the power of the program.
Yeah, but not like individuals. We're not trying to impede on anyone's privacy, but it is blockchain. So we know what we paid out and where it went.
Where it went. That's right. We can track that. And there's an important part here related to this idea of enabling people maybe to get more involved in governance. I think that's a really smart thing to track, but goals. So like one thing that GJ leads for us is part of this program is to educate and onboard people into communities and then to know what they should do. So GJ, do you want to walk through some of the work we do there to make these programs powerful?
Yeah, in brief, the bounty program wherein participants get compensated in uni for creating analytics works like this. We source questions from the community, from Discord, from conversations that we think will be of interest or will solve problems. And then we put bounties on those questions. So the community can sign up and claim them and solve them, and then produce dashboards using our proprietary tool set. And we also provide a suite of videos, onboarding materials, and analytics help, and a community to help people do that. So one quick example, our Discord community had 600 people a month and change ago. It's now at 1,800. People are really interested in seeing what other people are doing and sharing their own work. And so there's a feedback loop there where people who start can then educate other people as they get more familiar with the bounty program. And as a result, the rising tide lifts all boats. You get an educated analyst community, and you get a suite of dashboards and queries, analytics that you can point to and say, hey, this is what we've built, this is what we've collected, which also helps people who come into the system learn how to do it.
It's cool to watch.
It's very cool.
See people learning SQL just so they can do their own research on our tool is like very fun.
And being able to ask a question or propose a question that you think will be valuable to the community and have 20 or 30 people answer it, each with their own spin, each with data backing in a week.
So now how do you filter, I guess, the high quality, I guess, conversations or recommendations or whatever label you want to tack onto it? How do you sift that from the rest of the noise that goes on in the forums to really catch the high priority topics, if you would?
You want me to take this one, Dave?
Yeah, hit that. Yeah, that's all you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question. And the simple answer is we work really hard. We review it as a team and source questions that we think will be valuable and answerable with data. So a lot of the questions that come up in the forums aren't necessarily possible to answer with data. And some of them are clearly people chasing yield. So it takes work and it takes effort. But here again, I think it's helpful having the experience of doing it. It makes you better suited to find out what do people really care about? What are the topics that come up, time and again? And what are the themes that we can identify? So a few weeks ago, we did validation and delegation, and a number of our questions were related to that because it's something we thought the community would be interested in. And those got a lot of participation. So it's a lot of work, but it's something that the more of it we do, the better we get. We are ultimately hoping that the community, as they become more educated and more interested in the data, will be able to also source questions. This happens quite a bit in our community. People say, hey, can you check this out? Can we bounty this? Can we talk about airdrops? Or can we talk about what happens when this governance proposal is instituted? How does that show up on chain? Does that answer your question?
No, absolutely. And it actually provokes the second question that I have is how do you distinguish intrinsically motivated individuals within your community? to acquire some of these bounties, or moving forward, how do you determine that and distinguish them from extrinsically motivated people, right? Because that's something that we're seeing in the space, right? Everybody wants to get some form of bounty or grant, right? And they're just focusing on the monetary aspect of things. But ultimately, the overarching goal is to scale the protocol. And you want to find individuals that want to be a part of that, to kind of buy into the vision, right? So how do you determine that, both on a community end and also on, I guess, on a team end, for those that are interested to kind of work alongside you and the Flipside team?
So I'll answer this briefly, and then if anyone wants to chime in, there's a quantitative element and a qualitative element. The qualitative is they're making dashboards, and you can see how much effort they put in to the description and the insight that they do. It becomes very clear when you look at hundreds of these submissions, who's just dialing it in to get paid versus who's really thought about the question and written out. And those are the ones that we reward with grand prizes. So over time, you can go above and beyond, and you'll be rewarded by the program. And then over the course of weeks or months, since we've begun this, you can see and track who's come back week in and week out, and what questions are they answering, and what feedback are they leaving. You know, when people submit these, we give them the opportunity to give us feedback on the process. And there's some really rich commentary about, hey, we love this data, but we wish you could do this, or this feature for the calculator. And then as well, there's some element of people raising their hand in Discord and community, helping each other out as well. And so we pay attention to those. We're actually having an awards ceremony next week for the people who have really just stepped up and done great work and helped out other users. So we care a lot about that. We want to call that out and call those individuals out and give them the opportunities to do more and get more involved in, with us, just in governance in general, to step up and keep doing what they're doing and do more of it.
Nice. So I guess in a way, the way that it kind of makes sense to me, and maybe for those that will watch this later, Flipside in a way is a community incentivized twist to, I guess, doing analytics, right? Because doing analytics, you could go and query data and provide all that in a dashboard format, but you're also giving back to the community for their efforts, right? And then at the same time, working simultaneously with the underlying protocol, be it Uniswap. And I guess that's going to raise my third question is there any anticipated other protocols that you guys plan on, working with? You got Uniswap. I'm assuming maybe Compound may be in the horizon, or maybe Av. I don't want to be the Alpha League guy here, so I'll leave it to you guys to kind of touch on that a bit.
I'll take the first part of the question. So first of all, we love Dune. We think they're a fantastic platform and great organization. There's a couple differences. You hit it on the head, where we consider what we offer community-enabled analytics. We, instead of sort of letting the community sort of build whatever they want, keep things private, all that, we're actually structuring the outcomes. Hey, what does the protocol want to see? We're directing the ability to create outcomes to help the ecosystem. We're also, because we're evaluating every one of these bounty analytics, we're QAing and making sure that they meet objectives of what's good. A couple other differences: we do have an open API, so we aren't restricting stuff to our system. So if you want to build a data set and then send it off to your own website, or build your own things, or download it and do stuff, that you're welcome to do that. And then the last is, we do, to your question, we do work with other protocols and chains. So we've launched programs with Compound. Av is coming up, I think, in a week or two. I don't want to, soon, coming up soon. Soon TM, right? That's soon TM. We have a very large program running with Terra. So we do a lot on the Terra blockchain. We have work coming out with ThorChain shortly. So you'll see some stuff there. We think ThorChain is pretty amazing. And we have a bunch of others. So we are multi-platform, multi-chain. Polygon's about to launch Arbitrum, and we would like to make sure our analytics are providing access across chains as assets move between them. Avi, what did I miss there? Anything? Yeah.
Nailed it.
And I gave it to him. He's like, you talk too much anyway. It's like,
Awesome. So I guess going through the proposal, right? There's an interesting conversation between you and Pinocchio, I believe his name is, and he raises a very interesting topic in terms of Flipside will be receiving the 50% of the yield, right? But now he also raises the topic of a renewal, right? Or I guess restructuring after 1 year or 2 years, I believe. I might be mistaken. How accurate is that comment? Has that been taken into consideration? Or what ramifications would that incur to Flipside into your proposal if that were to happen? There wasn't really that much conversation going on, so I guess I want to hear from the horse's mouth. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, so first is we thought his commentary was great. I mean, there was a couple back and forth, and just know internally we were like, this guy's sharp. Like he's asking good questions. I mean, sometimes people comment and you're like, what are they talking about? But this was good. We thought he was very sharp about it. The first question was about fees, and we'll just say, so the way that we structure everything is sort of a 1-to-1, which is for every 1 uni we receive, 1 uni goes into the ecosystem. And that scales up and down based on the yield that's occurring. This is the rationale on the fee is pretty simple. Every cost we have is not a sort of linear, it flatlines at some point. If there are more bounties happening, GJ is doing more work to source the right bounty structures. We're doing more QA work. There's more data that needs to be managed and analyzed, more analysts that need to be engaged, et cetera. So it's a pretty simple, we look at it as sort of the ultimate fair philosophy. You're basically using yield to power a program. You're giving it to the community. We take our share to make sure it works really well, and we share in that equally. If we make more money, the community makes more money. And again, in this case, there's actually nothing being spent because the grant money is sitting in liquidity pools. Okay, so the first part, we feel pretty strongly our fees quite fair to the outcomes in the program. The second part, you'd said his name, I can't remember his name exactly, but he was saying, is there anyone else that can provide this service? Is there a good competitive landscape? And maybe after a year, someone shows up that's better. Okay, totally awesome. Like we're like, yeah, if someone can do this and they can do it better, and we're happy to it's an open economy. We're happy to evaluate. We do have a couple thoughts that we have the oversight committee, which is structured to be able to say this should be reviewed. Okay, it could be reviewed for anything. It could be reviewed that another provider shows up that's better. It could be reviewed because people don't like the analytics, or it doesn't matter. And so we have this oversight committee structured to do exactly what he's talking about. Now that committee is set to be forced to do a review at 3 years. The reason for that is for us to ramp this system and to put all the resources and multiple analysts internally and community analysts to manage the Uniswap bounty program. That's a lot of lift. So imagine building that up over the course of the beginning of a year, and then at the end of the year, immediately it gets taken out. Okay. And so, like anything, we have a lot of work to do, and we'd rather not take 6 months to build it up and then immediately wind it down. We love the idea that if there are other providers, they should be looked at. We really do. They don't exist yet, and maybe we're the first of many, but this isn't just analytics. This is analytics that are directed and managed and QA'd and processed as needed. That's hard to do. So our response to him is awesome. The oversight committee will bring it back whenever. And if someone wants to ask the committee to say, can we do it now? Go right ahead. We are stewards of Uniswap. If that happens, we would love to put it under review and talk about our benefit versus others. And yeah, we'd love that. I don't know
I guess my question to that, unless anybody else wants to add on, how, since this is DeFi, right? How is the oversight board and I believe the other there's two boards, right? There's the Oversight Board
Allocation Committee.
and the Allocation Committee. Yeah. How are the members chosen? Is it more of an internal review, or is that a community decision? How do you guys kind of go with that process?
Yeah.
I'll leave you with that question.
Yeah, the allocation board is 7 members, 3 of which are Flipside, 4 are community. So we will open a community vote for who gets to sit on that. The oversight board is a 3-member board. 1 is Flipside, 1 is community. 1 we are recommending could be someone who is engaged with Uniswap Labs, because we do think the lab should have a voice in whether this gets reallocated. We think that would be great. But it could be, it's 1 Flipside member and 2 other members of that committee.
Awesome. I guess that the follow-up question to that is, since Ben is primarily students from collegiate levels, how can students get more involved on the Flipside end? How can they work alongside the team, or how can they start participating more with the community? How can they bring value to not only the proposal, but just the Flipside in general?
I'm gonna let GJ take this. I think I'm gonna share my screen because we have a little bit of a program. There you go. Okay. Over to you, GJ. Yeah.
All right. I am thrilled at this question. The first and most important answer is, if people really want to be involved deeply, we have space for that. Come partner with us. If people want to be involved for a couple hours a week, we have an option for that too. So most immediate thing I would say is jump into our Discord, jump into the bounty program, get your hands dirty, and solve some bounties. Some of our very best participants, a lot of the people that we're going to honor at our award ceremony, are students. They're data literate, they're collaborative, energetic. Angela is a Dr. Minster. I have a master's degree. Both of us are all about higher education. We understand the value that people who are committed and engaged and motivated and willing to do the work can provide. Some of those bounties that they solve are terrific. So always love to see student submissions. They're some of the best. They're always a pleasure to grade. That's the most immediate thing. We are also looking for help for people who want to be a little bit more involved in grading and judging submissions. And particularly, I'll call out the very best submissions. We are at the point where a lot of them are very competitive, as in it's difficult to choose, what is going to be the best. Ultimately, we would love for the community to make that determination for us. As you know, getting people to vote is not always easy. And giving them the infrastructure to do that is not always easy. So we are looking for some help from people who are engaged and committed and really want to learn and go deep about a particular project, its ins and outs, its nuances, its data, to help us judge between some of these stellar grade A submissions and pick the ones that are worthy of grand prizes. So we choose 1 out of 25 or 30 that we get every week per question to be the very best. That gets a substantial extra reward and gets shouted out to our newsletter, roughly 20,000 people. Among other things, we'll post it on Twitter. We'll do our best to help people build a platform and build a brand. And some of our, grade A submissions are already, that's happening. They're already writing Medium posts and tweeting it out from their own accounts. We want to help with that. That's good for us, but it's also just good for the community that some of these awesome analytics get spread more widely. So we need some people to help us in that grading and judging process. The more people do this, the more bounties we get, which means a lot more time grading and sourcing. And I would add one more thing to this slide. Come up with great questions. Come up with things that are important and need to be answered that aren't being answered. We are always looking for new questions to bounty out and put in front of the community. And I'll close with, come hang out in Discord, ask questions, propose ideas, tell us how we can get better, give us feedback.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You may have just piqued my interest, maybe.
Come on in. Yeah.
No, but that is fantastic, and please, if we'll add you to the Ben International chat, so you can kind of introduce yourselves as well, but to also give this first-handed to the students, because that's our whole goal here, is to give them the opportunity to not only get the exposure, but to also have a hands-on approach on what's going in the DeFi ecosystem, not just to Uniswap, but everything. So thank you for that.
I'll chime in real brief. One thing I forgot to mention, that I would have loved when I was in grad school in San Diego, like if you're trying to get into crypto, either as a career or as a part-time investor, slinging some tokens around, having a portfolio is super valuable. And part of our education initiative is to help people build their portfolio, solving bounties, making dashboards, analytics, answering questions, being able to demonstrate that you really know the ins and outs of a program or a protocol like Uniswap. That's gold, and we would love to help people be able to do that. I think one of our analysts just said, hey, I just got a full-time job in crypto. Like that's the third one this week. We're seeing this happen. A lot of our students are going on and trying to get, full-time into the industry. We would love to shorten that journey.
That's rather interesting, because we share this. We're actually pretty aligned with Ben, right? Because over at Ben, we created a crypto fund analyst committee, right? And it's exactly that. We want to give our students the opportunity to build their own portfolio and to really showcase their technical and fundamental skills, right? But that's definitely a topic that we could dive into a bit, because it's exactly that. These job opportunities are looking for students that could showcase their portfolio and see the performance month over month, year over year, what have you. So that's excellent. I applaud that tremendously. That's awesome. Cool. Well, we are about 7 minutes left in the session. So I guess we could kind of start closing things out with any closing remarks from the team. I'll give you the floor to leave any closing statements.
I'll just say we've been fans of Ben. We've been sort of watching the network grow. We've had a chance to be in the community a little bit. We think it's pretty awesome what you guys are doing of connecting all these all the bright minds out there thinking about the space. We've been even on this call, you've had great builds and thinking about the right types of organizations to grow and how to help people think about their future. So we really like that. And we're on our side, we're looking forward to the next step. We're going into official proposal stage, it would seem, over the next couple of days. And, we're excited. We're excited to build this out for Uniswap, but to actually, in the sort of bigger picture, start creating ecosystem strategies that sort of self-fulfill, that you're using the medium itself in order to fund services and programs that can help that ecosystem grow. So we're excited to do that.
Can I throw in, for your community, even if you don't want to do a bounty, our data is still completely accessible and free. Like, are you doing a project for school? You need some data? Use crypto data. And we work our asses off to make it really easy to use, like well-organized tables. It's not just raw data. And there's always someone to answer your question. So even if you're not interested in bounties, there's a lot of easy to access data.
Yeah, our solution is, it's API ready. We have a dashboard visualizer solution as well. So lots of really cool things you can do. And yeah, everyone's there to help. So you don't have to just be participating in bounties to get the power of the system. We just want to create an awesome community. And yeah, it's awesome.
Is there any, I guess, on the roadmap, kind of going cross-chain, kind of building out into, let's say, Tezos right now, their DeFi ecosystem is blowing up, right? Maybe Algorand, Polygon, Polygon even. What else? There's so many smart contract platforms out there now that they're really focusing on DeFi. Where does Flipside fit into that mold? What do you guys plan on doing?
So I'll let Dave talk about we've listed who we might be working with, but one thing that's cool about the way we have everything set up is so for example, we're going to be working with Thorchain soon. We're going to be putting out Thorchain data soon. In the Thorchain transactions, when there's a swap on Ethereum, the Ethereum address is actually listed in the Thorchain transaction. So with our data, you could connect it all in the same query, all of the like you could say, is this Thorchain swapper also using SushiSwap, Uniswap, and like Compound or whatever? And you can do that all within one query because everything is already connected. So for as many different chains as we have in our data, they're already sort of cross-chain in that way, if that's the kind of cross-chain you were alluding to.
Yeah. Basically,
Yeah.
it's just, for instance, I guess another example is like Bender Labs, right? Bender Labs allows you, that's on Tezos, allows you to wrap ERC20 tokens and to make it compatible with the Tezos chain, right? So you basically just answered that is any transaction that's executed via Bender in this case,
Right.
you could query that and see, okay, what else have they used, whether via the Tezos ecosystem or an Ethereum. So that's actually fantastic because now it shows just how interoperable these chains could really be through whatever this medium is.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. That's really cool.
We just did this for Terra. We just released a couple bounty questions talking about the bridge and activity going back and forth between those two blockchains. So we're thinking similarly.
Yeah, we actually came from, a major push for us in 2020 was to become a multi-chain org. So we've done a ton of work with Algorand and Cello. Obviously, Terra was one of our early partners. So we come from that mindset. We believe in a multi-chain world. I'm very integrated with Cosmos as well. So, obviously being in Ethereum is important. These layer twos, traditional layer twos, and then obviously side chains as well. Obviously, it's in order for the ecosystem to scale, we understand that there's going to be multiple chains and they'll start to specialize, and that it's important for us to play in there. So while we want to partner and know it's important to keep our sights on the strong Ethereum-based players, we obviously also want to make sure that we are, out there in the broader ecosystem as well.
I'll kind of throw this out there because I think this would be an interesting query, but the use of Ren's WBTC Cafe, their bridge, to see the influx of Bitcoin coming into WBTC and seeing where that WBTC kind of diverges after it's being wrapped, I think that would be a fairly interesting query to look into, because then you'll see, okay, what is the utilization rate of wrapped Bitcoin once it gets on chain, right?
Yeah.
Where is it going? So I think that's fairly interesing.
Give this guy a bounty. I mean, he's ready to go. Put him in the system.
You've done some work on that, haven't you?
Yeah, I think I calculated the metric of like what percentage of Bitcoin is on Ethereum, like 20 times, and it just keeps growing. I don't know what it is today though, but yeah, and we have also done a lot of work around like how to track flows across a chain, like what's the best way to do that. So yeah, come to our Discord, I'll help you do it.
Let's make it happen. That sounds awesome. Cool. Well, there's 1 minute left. In respect to your time, again, I'll leave the floor open for, again, some final statements, reeling the crowd in to get more participation in it with Flipside and be a part of the community. I'll leave the floor to you guys to kind of close things out.
Join our Discord, find a bounty, learn SQL. You can do that in our system, and help protocols grow. Once you put data in the world, everybody can get smarter and better at using them.
You can go to flipsidecrypto.com/discord to join our Discord. Flipsidecrypto.com/bounties will take you to our Notion kind of headquarters, where you can learn how to join, get involved, sign up for our Velocity, our query builder, and all those good things.
Fantastic. Well, with that being said, I'll close things out. This will be posted on YouTube, so people could watch the conversation and learn more about Flipside, and we'll be posting this as well on Twitter. So go ahead and give it a retweet and a favorite, and let's keep the conversation going. So I want to thank the Flipside team for joining the Meta-Delegate call. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.